subscribe, share it, tell everyone. Sideline Sports, y'all come back real soon. Same place, same time, same tune.
I love this
band.
song. Brendan, I'm telling you, I send you. That was so cool the way this thing happened. I love it. Thank you
What
so
that
much.
you sent me something and then
And it was so bad.
I made a song out of your shitty text. Yeah, I did.
Yeah, Audrey said
out of
Audrey
your horrible text message that's misspelled, out of context, and it says Siri and sent from my iPhone, I believe, at the bottom of every one of your things.
it's so bad audio tape. But I'm talking about when I sent you that original jingle for the song, and then you.
What jingle did you send me? What did you send me? I want to know.
I'll send it to you later.
Okay,
but then you sent this, and it was like Audrey was like, "No, don't do it."
You sent me your buddy on a guitar.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
This is the Rob Browne. This was not that. Just so you know.
I know. And then you came back with thank you. All right, look, we got a great show today. Bartoo said he's pouring the coffee right now out in Forest Grove, Oregon, outside of Portland. Take a picture with your cell phone of the QR code. We're broadcasting, streaming live on 8 channels of Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. Now, please, all of you watching, Michael Jordan, Dave Baker, all of you, share this on your Facebook page with all your friends. Ask them to share, like, and subscribe. It is such a big deal for us. This is how we're growing. We're going to build this network. We got some huge plans. We've been working on the business plan. Audrey and Brendan and I and John all for weeks, and we've spent a lot of time on the weekend. It's going to be incredible what we're going to do here. And Coach, let me say this. Coach Ellis Johnson joins us. We missed you last week because I know that storm, in Memphis, we got 6 or 8 inches of snow. Just below us in Oxford, where Ole Miss is, they got hit with an ice storm, and there's a few people that still don't have power. Most of them are back up and running. But, man, the tree removal people and the tree grinders are all going to be gazillionaires after they clean up Oxford. And it's all over the South. You got hit again yesterday with snow. But when you get snow and then freezing rain and ice on top of that, I walk outside. It's like walking on asphalt. And so the major streets are fairly clear. But you know what? You got a 4-wheel drive F-150 from LandersFordMemphis.com. You can handle anything, but still use your brain. Coach, how you doing this morning? Brendan and I are fired up. You're back on.
I'm doing okay. I feel kind of like maybe like a little pussy. I mean, I lost power for 24 hours. Yeah, Pete lost it for a week. And so I said, you went on Monday? Yeah, I was on.
You're a little soft.
Oh, yeah.
I want you to know you're a little soft, Coach.
Yeah. This iPad had 2% on the battery.
Oh,
I had no way to charge it. So,
yeah. Well, the crazy thing was last week, Pete was out in his car, and it was so cold in this house, and you could see the breath, when you're breathing. And the bottom line is, when you're moving in it, you're hunting in it, you're moving around, you're good to go. But there's a certain point you don't even take your dogs with you. It gets that cold. But Pete was outside, and you could tell he was getting kind of numbed up. But look, I was telling Brendan before the show, there's Pete Cordelli.
Hey, man, sorry about that. I've been driving around trying to find a dang hot spot, and the only one I could find is the damn Brentwood Police Station. Holy hell!
Oh,
hey, I'm telling you,
you're my boy right there. You're my boy, Blue.
I got to say this. Belle Meade, I know, has been really hit. They say at night you go out there, it's dark because there's no power. And I know people that live there, friends, and they're like their generators. Everything's been stressed to the max, but. Guys,
Rob, they hired extra security because they were afraid they were going to have looting going on over in Belle Meade.
Yeah.
They've hired a whole security company I think they said they have like a dozen cars patrolling the whole area. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a mess because you get off there at exit 196. You don't even have to go into Nashville. It's a different ice is way worse than snow. Ellis, let's get to you and then go back to Pete. I was telling Brendan before the show, every day the lead story on the Athletic website and across you pick it, it's something about Indiana. I mean, Kurt Signetti, Indiana, Miami, reload in the portal. There's kind of a lull right now. We got the Super Bowl coming up this weekend, and we're going to talk about that some too today. But Coach Johnson, you got these guys coming in the portal. They're enrolled. I guess they go to class. I don't know what happens anymore. But you've heard me advocate for intense 13 weeks like Paris Island, or when you were a knob at the Citadel. You go through a grind period of indoctrination to build a team. Wouldn't it make sense to just put these guys through something like hire some gunnery sergeants, some drill instructors? I am Gunnery Sergeant Hartman. Welcome to Auburn University football training camp. For the next 13 weeks, you will not eat, you will not breathe, you will not ask any questions without first being told to do so. Do you ladies understand me? Would you go for that?
No. That wouldn't be in my NIL.
Okay.
No, that's not cool. I wouldn't do it. I mean, you're not cool. And I
didn't show up half the time.
I have the cool drill instructor, please. Thank you. Gotta go. Sorry.
Well, but how are you going to get them in a short period of time ready to go? Mat drills, winter workouts,
all of the above, I guess. I don't know. It's just the amount of time and the number of players that are coming in, recycling. Of course, you used to always have 25 or 30 coming in the door, but they were freshmen.
Yeah.
Who you were going to groom and work, and hopefully, a few exceptions there were going to play real early, but most of them, they got better over years, not months and not weeks, but years. Now they're coming in and they're a junior already, and you expected them to fill a hole immediately. The amount of teaching and getting in the system and all that, I don't know how much you can do in addition to just them learning the system. And that's what the thing with Indiana, they said that the JMU players that came with him was so crucial because they just kind of brought the culture with them.
Yeah.
And I mean, they were an example to everybody else. And it sped up the process of him coming in, trying to get them on the same page.
Yeah. And I think it was interesting when it was brought up last week about had Kalen DeBoer, when he came to Alabama, let's say he had come from James Madison and he brought 15 or 20 players from JMU, what would the reaction have been on the part of the Alabama fan base? Probably they would have gone crazy, wouldn't they?
I don't know, probably a little bit, but I tell you, when you first think about it, you're like, this is stupid. But when you think about it, the question you asked,
yeah,
I mean, it is no question it would be a huge advantage to have a core of your football team up around 16, 17 players that know exactly what you want in meetings, exactly what you want in mat drills, exactly how you want to hit the weight room and all those different things. And there's no, I guess you'd say there's no really grooming time. They come in, hit the ground running, and it's an example for the other kids there.
Yeah. All right. Look here. Making the grade, people. Let me tell you what, Pete, I like to read through this. You've got such detail, like position specifics for linebackers. There's 20 things. And I love number 20, eye placement, see and find the ball. I mean, you've got to teach all of that. And a kid, like Coach Johnson said, coming in as a junior, he's already got a lot of habits, some of them probably not good habits that have been built in. You don't want to completely reprogram them, but you got to have the standard. And by the way, Pete, we'll give a shout out to the Brentwood, Tennessee Police Department. Pete is not in trouble. He's just got, look, that's what I love about both of y'all. You're from that era that, I mean, Brendan, I'm not making this up. There have been times on this show when he has literally piggybacked on an 18-wheeler on I-75 to get a Wi-Fi signal. We have never missed a show for any technical reason. I'm telling you, that's a badass producer. That's a badass guy.
Rob, that might seem good, but I'll tell you what, that's nothing what we did in TV to get the damn sheet on the air. We cut cables. We would show up the next morning like, oh, we're doing bumps and jumps of the Ford F-Series downhill. Here's the truck. The camera one's 2 miles up the hill. We need to cable it. all the way up. I need audio. I need all that stuff. You do 3 days of it, and then some jack off comes with the front loader in the morning to clear snow and just rips it all out. You're like,
Yeah,
gotta do it again before it starts, boys.
yeah.
At that point, you're stealing snowmobiles and making deals with the devil, man. I'll tell you what.
We've had that. I've had that happen. Someone is out there, a crew in the yard, and a shovel goes right through the cable. Coach Pete Cordelli, though, at the live from the Brentwood, Tennessee police station, and Dave Bartoo pouring that coffee out there. Dave, Pete got a signal, but he had to go into the Brentwood, Tennessee Police Department parking lot. But Pete, before we go to Dave, talk about what I just said about these kids coming in, and there's a standard, and Dave's right. The numbers don't lie. The standards can never change.
Ever. And that's the whole thing about bigger, stronger, faster doesn't always win. But buying in and having trust and commitment to the plan, that's what wins. And look, what Coach Johnson just said, here's the one thing, though, when you're bringing in these portal guys, they've been through the offseason before. They understand what a mat drill is. Maybe not in your terminology, but when Signetti brought those guys from James Madison, they were the ones saying, no, this is how we're doing it. The 3 teams I see right now that can get that done: Penn State, with the number of guys they got coming from Iowa State. All right. Auburn, with the number of guys Alex Golish has coming from South Florida. And Oklahoma State, with what Eric is bringing from North Texas. It's just about being on the same page and having the standards set, like you said, Rob. But, hey, look, and before we go any further, my thoughts and prayers to Coach Holtz. He's in hospice.
Yeah.
And I know Skip and Kevin, Luann, and Liz are all with him, his family. But, man, he impacted so many lives. And he always used to say, now I'm going back to 1972 when I was a freshman at NC State, this is the time of year that your football team is made. It's made in the off season. And we're going to make the drills so darn tough. If you can't keep up, find another place. So, those mat drills, there's a purpose.
Yeah.
Because here's the thing. I truly believe the one differentiating factor in all teams is mental toughness. Because if you don't have mental toughness, you're not going to push through to do the physical things.
Yeah.
You're not going to push through to do the little things.
Yeah.
And that's why the off season, this month's been disrupted, but January and February, before you got to spring practice, was always a time to build mental toughness, because that's the core of your team going into the fall.
Yeah.
Now, the other thing that's changed that Ellis and I never could take advantage of are the summer meetings. We've never had your whole team in summer school.
Yeah.
Or now, supposedly, they're going to class, or they're asking Siri the answers to all the questions. And then we get to have football meetings with them. And then we always had captain's practice, what we called it, or leadership practice. And I would write out a script for the quarterbacks at Notre Dame. I'd give it to Tony Rice. Say, here, go run it. And the receivers. Now, the one thing those guys would do is they'd hold each other accountable. So it was by formation, play, but also field position. In college and high school, 72 to 75% of every game is played off a hash mark. The ball is rarely in the middle of the field. And I hate it. When these 7-on-7s start and they always put the ball in the middle, it's like, no. It's not teaching. So we would always move left, middle, right, hash, right, middle, left hash. So you're always moving the ball and having an understanding why you're calling a certain play from one hash, why you're calling it from the middle, where the openings are. And the summer has become such a big teaching emphasis. That's why you're able to take all these portal guys and get them indoctrinated into your system. Now, what August brings is, if they're going to bite as a pup. I don't know who's biting, baby.
Yeah.
Until you actually get out there and do it. And that's when you go, oh my God, we overpaid for this cat. Oh my God, we underpaid for this cat. So there's been some changes, but the core groundwork for this has been set for years. The off-season program, and I mean, we used to have 10 stations in the indoor, and that's going on right now. But mental toughness is what you're building, because that's what's going to separate the men from the boys.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and Dave Bartoo, welcome aboard. By the way, these energy gummies. Now, I took a chill before I came on the air today, so I'm calm. But this right here,
It's a commercial for you, Dave.
Yeah, this roll on.
Yes.
I'm telling you, this stuff is freaking amazing because, like I said, I had that shoulder injury October 11th. I took off a month. All I did was leg weights and run and bike and stuff. But I took the gummies, the energy and anti-pain inflammation, and I put that roll on.
Yep.
It works, folks. I'm just going to tell you right now, I will never endorse anything that I don't believe in and I hadn't used. This stuff works. So, by the way, thank you so much, Dave Bartoo, hempforpros.com. I see the news, by the way, about Gus Malzahn. We're also going to talk in a minute with Ellis about Philip Marshall, one of the great sports writers. Loved him, had him on the show many times, passed away Friday at only 76 years of age. His father, Benny Marshall.
Announce the news what you were reading, Rob. So
yeah,
those who
but before I do that, I want to talk about Gus Malzahn. Dave has stepped down as offensive coordinator at Florida State. You know that maybe you can make some sense out of that. But Dave, welcome aboard College Football Matrix. Let's talk some football. There's a lot of changes. I love what Pete said about bringing guys over from a previous team. And anyway, welcome aboard, and feel free to talk about whatever is on your brilliant mind.
Well, let's start with what you just talked about with Gus Malzahn. Okay. And from your standpoint, you said maybe it's a little bit of a surprise. He's 60 years old. But he came up in a non-NIL era. And I think the transition between being a coach yesterday and being a coach today is extremely significant. Nick Saban couldn't be himself. He left. And, we have seen more guys, maybe not as pronounced, obviously, as Nick or a Gus, but there's been a lot more guys step away because this environment is much more difficult to deal with. And at 60, I mean, hell, he was an SEC head coach from 13 to 20? I mean, he had 8 years of SEC head coach pay. You don't need to deal with nothing. He's got his FU money, right? I mean, come on. Yeah. And I think the writing was on the wall when he left UCF because, I've said it once and I'll say it again. Most of these guys, they really love once they've been a head coach, they love trying to be a head coach again. And, Gus, that was a pretty rare situation where a guy removed himself and from being a head coach and took an OC position. So it kind of told me mentally he was done with this. Maybe there was a tiny chance there was something going on at UCF that he just didn't like and needed to get away from it. And this was kind of his reset button. But it felt to me that this was the beginning of the end of his emotional engagement with college football when he went from UCF down to FSU. So it was a hell of a run for him as a coach. And, now you have a new offensive coordinator stepping up. We'll see if he's calling plays. I cannot imagine Coach Norvell is going to be having Coach Harris call plays when he's never called plays before with as hot as the seat is in Tallahassee. No damn way. So it's the Norvell and White show. They got to do special teams coordinator. Adam is pretty solid. They brought him in. So we'll see what direction that goes for Florida State this year. But, good run, Gus. And we'll see what happens in Tallahassee. I don't think it's going to impact the program that much, though.
I don't either. And Ellis, I agree with that. I mean, it was a hell of a run. that's no one's really put it that way. He did not grow up in an NIL era, and he did a little bit of it, and was like, hey, I've got my money, and
Yep.
I'm out. So that makes sense. Ellis, speak briefly about, you knew Philip Marshall, great writer, one of the nicest, kindest people. You asked him to come on the show. He came on every time we asked. He helped so many people with their careers, and he's one of the original skywriters with Buddy Martin and those guys that used to fly on just basically a rolling bachelor party covering the SEC every year. You couldn't have
You
done
don't
it.
know that to be true, Robert. We can't say that. Buddy will come on here and whip your ass, son.
Well, but
I can, and so can Ellis, because we witnessed them at night in the towns they were in. So,
Yeah.
Rob, we back you up 100. I back you up 100%.
Coaches, they all got there. Just like the disconnect. All those media guys are partying all the time. Those coaches aren't doing shit all the time.
Yeah.
Blah,
Who do you think the coaches learn from on how to party?
Yeah.
Well, that's
and
when you
where to
guys
go
used to
to at
talk
night.
to us. You used to
The
talk and
damn-
hang out and have a drink, but now we can't even talk without calling
Yeah.
like 45 people.
they would go. They'd go
Sports
out to.
writers that go, hey, meet me down at so-and-so. It's the speakeasy where nobody knows that it's open till 4 a.m. And you're like, holy Christ, I lived here for 3 years. I didn't know that.
And when you and Dave Bartoo, Dave, you come down here to an
man.
Auburn game, we'll take you out to Lake Martin, go to Stillwaters, and
Friends
they'd
in
go
low
to
places, baby.
they'd go to
Friends in low-
Stillwaters, and they would be out there all weekend long playing golf and cards and all kinds of witchcraft and sorcery. But they built
Rob.
relationships. Yeah, built
Careful,
relationships.
Rob. This is
Look-
them right there, folks. There you go.
Oh
There's
my
the sky right.
God,
There you go. Check that
that's
out.
awesome.
Yeah. You guys want to talk a little shit right now? There you go. I know what happened there. I got the damn picture. Shut your holes.
But Ellis, before you respond to what Dave was just saying, speak briefly about Philip Marshall, because I had so much respect for that man. Loved what he did, and he was brutally honest, and he learned from his father, legendary Benny Marshall, who died at only age 47, sports editor of the Birmingham News, a Hall of Famer himself.
Yeah, the thing that I remember most about him, he was kind of a character. If you just were around him and you heard him, you'd think, when this guy questions me, he doesn't know his butt from a hole in the ground. And all of a sudden, you're sitting down talking to him, and he had great knowledge of football. He had a great way of presenting questions to get you to open up and say some things that he wanted you to say. And, everybody tries to be on guard a little bit with some media because, it gets to be a little bit of an adversarial role. But and when Buddy was on about 3, 4, 5 months ago, we were talking. And because my age, I was around some of those guys that he worked with a lot. And we shared some pretty good stories about that. But the biggest thing Buddy and I were talking about is back when those guys were coming through, the print media was so powerful. You didn't have all this internet and other streaming and all this other stuff. You didn't have all these websites that the schools all have for themselves. And the print guy, he could make or break you. He could help you or he could hurt you. And so smart coaches developed personal relationships with those guys and spent time around them in a personal way. And that's kind of all the stuff y'all been talking about the last few minutes.
Yeah.
That's, to me, really why it happened. They needed each other.
Yeah.
The print media needed the good stories, and people like Coach Bryant could deliver.
Yeah.
And those coaches needed good stuff printed.
Yeah.
Because that even affected recruiting,
Yeah.
affected the fan bases. But that's in that era, that was the deal, man.
Yeah. And I mean, it was such a great time, and we learned so much from it. I want to do some fast-paced Q&A. Dave to Pete, Dave and Ellis, back and forth. All right, Dave, you heard what Pete said about bringing a bunch of former players from Iowa State, a bunch of new former players come into Penn State and come into Oklahoma State. And I saw your eyes kind of light up. Agree or disagree with what Pete said? And that's what this is about, is making us think.
I don't agree with what Pete is saying in terms of it's simple as because you bring in a head coach and he brings in a bunch of guys in good continuity, that's going to win a bunch of football games. You're taking Iowa State talent which is in the Big Ten, bottom 4 recruiter, and you're bringing them all to the Big Ten. Now, there's probably something that has to do with the continuity, and you can say, well, look, it worked with James Madison, but also look at the coaching grade you have. Okay, you have a head coach in Signetti that was our number 1 graded coach coming out of James Madison out of FCS, and Campbell about the same grade as James Franklin before him. Now with lesser talent, but with more cohesion. I don't think that's any sort of national championship contender. At Auburn, look, Alex Goles, yeah, he brought all his guys. He had 12 good games on offense. The 24 before that were not very good at all. The defense wasn't that great. This offensive and defensive staff combined is not very good relative to the SEC. Indiana has a top 3 offensive, defensive, special teams coordinator trio. And then you go over to Oklahoma State. Now, Oklahoma State might be a little different. That's a coach's league, right? I mean, we see teams come and go. Arizona State hits it, then they don't. Utah's there, then they're not. Texas Tech wasn't there 2 years ago. Now they're there. So, maybe with the North Texas kids, that was a top 20 offense, but it was also a bottom 20 defense. So I know that that Indiana gives people a little bit of hope in terms of player continuity and doing it with lesser players. But I think what is missing most of all is the coaching aspect of it. This is a top 5 staff. It is the number 1 graded active head coach in college football. You got a top 5 DC, you got a top 5 OC, you got a top 10 special teams coordinator. There's only 3 other teams in college football that have those kind of coaching profiles, and they're all top 10 recruiters. So I like the feel-good story of Indiana, but I think Signetti and what they did is one of one. And I think a lot of teams that are setting themselves up to go, well, this looked like what Indiana and James Madison and Kurt Signetti did, are setting themselves up for failure, because I just can't imagine that happening in my lifetime again. But it did happen. So, there's that possibility.
All right, let's go live to the Brentwood, Tennessee police station parking lot. The man who, Pete, I got to tell you, I've known you 33 years. You pray hard in mass. You work even harder to get a signal. I can't thank you. I cannot thank you enough. God, you're awesome. Go ahead.
It's the job we do. I mean,
I know
there's no job too small, and you find a way to get it done. But thank you. And these guys are starting to look at me like, what are you doing sitting in our parking lot? Like, what I mean? I'm like, fellas, honestly, I'm okay.
We'll say hi to them.
They're driving by me, and they're looking at me like I'm looking at my screen and going, what the hell is he doing? But anyway, to Dave's point, Dave, I would disagree with you on Alex Golesh, and here's why. I've seen the guy coach.
Yep.
And it's always been said, there's no book that is ever written on how to be a head coach. That first year at South Florida, he took over a proverbial very, 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 very below average team. I don't know why so many people judge coaches on their first year. Ellis has been a head coach. I had the opportunity to be a head coach at a place where the talent was below the Mendoza line, okay? And it's Nick Saban's alma mater, Kent State. And if they would have hired Nick, he would have had the same problem. As good at coaches. Now, I'm not comparing myself to Nick Saban at all. But I'm telling you, when you take over a program and you can't bring in that many transfers like they can today, that first year, trying to get your staff on the same page, the players and everything else, it's just an incredible adjustment, because the second year, you don't do things the same as you do the first year. Alex Golesh did a tremendous job at Tennessee running that offense. The offense has fallen off since he left at Tennessee. His first year at South Florida, they struggled. But, man, to come back and do what they did this year, and it's going to take a little bit, but to bring guys that understand your verbiage, your attitude, and what you want to do, he's a leg up already. And Cignetti kind of set that bar. Now, I'm not saying that the rest of the staff is the quality of Cignetti's. We've discussed that in great detail. And the defensive coordinator and Shanahan, the offensive coordinator, do a great job at Indiana. They've been with them a long time. Matt Campbell's got some new guys, but Matt Campbell's got a group of guys coming that understand what Matt Campbell wants to do. And you're right. Just because you're bringing all these guys doesn't mean it automatically translates into wins. But I'm telling you what it does. It gives you a leg up on establishing a tempo, a culture, a locker room presence that wasn't there before. So the guys that are there, they're going to learn from these other players.
Yeah.
You know, there's a saying, when your seniors and leaders are playing the best football of their career, you always have a chance because they set the tone and the tempo for the younger guys. And if the younger guys can't keep up, get in the portal now. We used to tell them, just change your address. Go. Get out. So part of this turnover, there's some guys you wanted to leave.
Yeah. Yeah.
You didn't want to keep all these guys either. Because of that last staff, they didn't make all great decisions. But it gives you a chance, I think, at these three places that you're bringing so many guys. I want to go back to Gus Malzahn if I can for a minute. And Rob, you'll know when I say this, but I put Gus Malzahn and Hugh Freeze in the same boat. And here's why. Just because they didn't grow up in the NIL era in college, they had their own NIL going on in high school.
Yeah.
Hugh Freeze at Briarcrest to get Michael Orr.
Yeah.
Gus Malzahn at Springdale Christian to get all those kids.
Yeah.
Guys, the private schools in Tennessee and in Arkansas, you got to be kidding me. They're run like small colleges.
Yeah.
So Gus and Hugh knew what it was. Gus and Hugh didn't want to recruit. You want to go play golf? Come on, man.
Yeah.
You know, and Dave, I really appreciate the numbers you have about the recruits and the recruiting staff and the numbers because it bears out in results on the field.
Yeah.
But when you have head coaches that all of a sudden relax and don't recruit, it's not about NIL money anymore. They did it through high school because I recruited those schools.
Yeah.
Well, what are you going to do for this kid? I don't want to hear that junk.
Yeah.
You got Jimmy Sexton financing Briarcrest Christian with Sean Toohey.
Yeah.
Sorry, guys. I didn't mean to raise my voice. I better put my hands down because I got another police car coming by.
Pete, let me say something, and I'm with you, and I'll tell you how intense it is now. I was talking to a high school bowling coach that just won a state championship, and they had a kid that was a freshman in high school that was the bowler of the year in Tennessee. And I said something to him. He goes, "Oh, we're already doing it. They're bringing that kid in from the other school to this private school for an on-campus tour, and they've got all kinds of money with their endowment. He can be in school. It's happening in bowling, Dave Bartoo. Bowling. Roy Munson. Where was NIL when Roy Munson was coming up in that great movie Kingpin? All right, Dave, kind of respond to that, and then Ellis, I want you to jump in on it. But this is a great conversation about, is it right to bring the guys in from the previous school? And Dave, these numbers, Curt Cignetti, what'd you call it, a one out? I think that's right. So respond to that, and then Ellis, you chime in after that. We'll get it going rapid fire on this Monday. Hey, if you're watching, do us a favor. Share us, like us, and subscribe. We're building this network. We're going to tell you the name and everything here soon, but great things are happening here on Sidelines.
Yeah, no disagreement with Pete. You know, I mean, when I'm looking at this, I'm just looking at numbers on paper. You know, Pete's watching the X's and O's. Pete knows the guys, knows some guys personally, and knows what he's looking at when he's watching a football game. So yeah, Alex Golsh at UCF, that was a stinker that he took over. I mean, as soon as they hired Charlie Strong, that thing went right in the crapper. And it took 3 years for him to turn it around. So, on the plus side, he took bad clay and made a really good offense out of it. And I do agree that athletic directors, for their benefit, not only they want to hire a good coach, they want to know how many guys are coming with them. They want to know the instant impact because, as much as head coaches got to win for their job, ADs need to hire head coaches that win for their job. Right? It's not necessarily about the best candidate. It's about the safest one. How big of a pile of chips does an athletic director have in front of them? Because if they're younger, if the athletic director's on a hot seat, they're going to go more conservative with a guy that can bring a bunch of players. So I do agree that all of these things that we're talking about in terms of bringing players over that understand the vernacular, the scheme, all of this stuff can be a positive impact. My argument is simply don't expect everybody that does the same thing Kurt did to be Kurt, So we'll see we'll see how it all plays out, but it's all hiring risk. But I'm just saying, let's not get too far over our skis until we start seeing win totals, and then we can really start talking about what's going to happen.
Yeah, and Ellis, it's a lot like the stock market. I tell people they chase, there's a saying in the stock market about why does a stock on the day earnings are announced go down $5 a share? Well, I learned when I got in the business as a financial advisor, stockbroker, whatever, in May of 91, buy at the wake, sell at the wedding. Okay. That good news has already been baked into the price. All the stock market is a discount mechanism 6 to 12 months in advance into the future. Great stuff, Dave Bartoo, College Football Matrix. Pete Cordelli live from the Brentwood, Tennessee police station. Hey, if the officers want to come over and say hello, do it. I don't want you getting pulled away.
I know one of them went by and just waved, so I'm trying to.
Okay, Ellis, you heard what Dave just said, and talked about putting things in the vernacular, just in the language of the common man. Building that in, you've coached 43 years. I mean, I think the greatest defensive coordinator in history is brother Bill Oliver from Epps, Alabama. I really do. When he lived at Logan's back house over in Chickasaw Gardens in Memphis, coaching the Showboats, I mean, it was like Robert Plant living in the guest house. That's how highly respected he was. By the way, the Memphis Showboats, Dave Bartoo, Ellis and Pete know this. 5 years after the USFL folded for that, trading places, $1 bet in the court settlement. 5 years after that fact, 17 of the Showboat players were still on active NFL rosters. That's fascinating. And by the way, Pete, my son played at St. Louis Catholic Middle School, 7th and 8th grade team. They would never play Briarcrest, Dave. You have to understand Briarcrest. There's MUS, and then there's Briarcrest, and then there's Christian Brothers. They would never play. And then the 1 year they felt like St. Louis may have dipped a little bit. So, they had a weight limit. You couldn't have a running back over 150 pounds. And they beat the St. Louis team for the first time ever. I'm at the game, and my son said, Dad, that running back there, see number 16 or whatever? He goes, he weighs 187 pounds. They didn't give a damn. Hey, we don't need no rules. I mean, that's what happened. But anyway, jump in here.
So now you're in trouble. You're in trouble, Robert. I went and got my dad, and he's going to beat you up.
Well,
so
no.
My dad is here. My father is here.
No. Hi, guys.
He's here. He's mad at you.
To him now.
No, not at all. But I mean, Ellis, I think I got distracted where I was going with that question. A lot going on, but
that's why I get the first question when Buddy comes on, so I can get critiqued.
Yeah.
I mean, what the hell?
Yeah. No, but I think this makes sense what all of y'all are saying about building a culture. And Dave, you talked about he took over, a terrible situation at South Florida, and then how quickly can you rebuild it? Curt Cignetti, like I said, you can't pull up the Athletic website on any day without Curt Cignetti being at the top story in Indiana. They're gonna ride that one in the ground. I don't know how long they can keep that going. But anyway, buddy, we were talking about all the stuff happening in college football and about the Skyriders tour. And how much the writers meant. I mean, the written word is still powerful. I still read. Dave reads. Brendan.
Well, we're just
Buddy,
talking about
Ellis,
talking about the connection, Dad. How things used to be. The stories you told me growing up. Coaches were a lot closer with the media, the print media, and Tom Cruise down here, Coach Ellis Johnson, was talking about how it was important sometimes to know the local media guy who was definitely writing on the daily beat.
Yes, good morning. I know you guys got a lot going on this morning. Ellis knows. Ellis and I crossed paths along the way. Pete and Dave, y'all are getting it done now. I'm just coming off of a little bit of I guess it's a low and high. The piece I wrote last weekend. I don't know if you saw it, Rob, or not, but it's called "The Death of Sports Pages." And I kind of went into a vent about how all of a sudden the New York Times and Washington Post just dumped them overside. And, you can't, it isn't something you can put on the shelf. I mean, the relationship that writers had with coaches and that the fans had with the guy with the byline. Philip Marshall is a good example. Just passed away, RIP. I know his dad well. I'm not saying it's always better in the old days, but boy, I tell you, there's a void now in the world without having a sports page, and a lot of people are dumping the sports pages. And I just wanted to talk about all the great people I've known and the writers I've known, and I was overwhelmed by the response of people from everywhere about what I wrote. I had no idea that it would touch so many nerves. Yeah. That people were just angry that these rich cats like, the guy that owns Amazon,
Bezos,
Jeff Bezos, these guys just sort of arbitrarily said, okay, we don't need these guys. Let's get rid of them. Or we'll go replace the sports page of the New York Times with something called The Athletic. You just don't go in there and wipe out all these years of history because who was your guy to call when you wanted to know what was going on? You were mad at the coach or you had a young person who was excelling and not getting attention. There used to be the local sports writer. Well, that's no longer, and it's changed and not for the better. But it is changed. It is changed. And that's what we're doing here now. This is change, and you guys fill the void. But I think we're still missing out. I had no idea how many people feel like we're missing something by getting rid of our sports pages now in the local product, whatever you want to call it, because it's not a paper anymore. And that was the essence of that column. And boy, oh boy, did I get a reaction.
Well, you did, and Dave Bartoo, Buddy Martin was longtime sports editor of the Denver Post. Now, if you had an NFL team, since you live in Portland, you a Seahawks fan? Are you a Broncos fan? Or are you just a fan of whoever you're working with? I know you work with NFL and college teams. You have to be fair.
Oh, actually, my NFL fandom runs deeper than anything.
Wow.
You probably some of us are old enough to remember the name Merlin Olsen and Maxie Vaughn. I'm sure Buddy remembers those names.
Utah State Aggie.
My mom and my dad babysat for Maxie Vaughn.
Wow.
And his neighbor was Merlin Olsen. My mom and dad, when they got married, their first couch was given to him by Merlin Olsen. Merlin's wife got a whole new living room set, and he wanted to get it out of there. So he asked my mom and dad, he's like, "You bring over the truck, I'll load it in."
Himself.
Yeah. So my that's little side story. My first love in sports happened to be the Rams because my mom and dad happened to babysit for their Pro Bowl players. So that's where it started for me. So obviously I hate the 49ers. And I'm not a big Seahawks fan either. But no, there is no NFL team here in Portland. There's barely an NBA team.
Yeah, I know, and this is what I love. It's the history part.
That Merlin Olsen's grandson, his name is Sam Roush. He played for us at Lipscomb Academy. His mom, Merlin's daughter, and Sam Roush went to Stanford. Sam Roush is going to get drafted in this draft. So remember the name Sam Roush. That's Merlin Olsen's grandson.
Wow.
And he is a dude, man. And I'll tell you what, he had a great year for us at Lipscomb Academy before he went to Stanford. But he always talked about his granddaddy Merlin, and the Utah State connection. So,
yeah.
Man, that's great to hear about Merlin Olsen and the Rams. Oh, yes.
Yeah. I mean, I love it. And Buddy, I want to go back to Buddy and then to Ellis. You remember these guys. I remember NFL, the DX trading stamps. You tried to fill up all 47 spots with the stamp every time you got gas. And I made my parents pull in there on an eighth of a tank. They go, we just filled up, but I got more stamps.
Sure.
The hardest two to get, Buddy, were Garo Yepremian, the kicker for the Dolphins, and my favorite, the most mispronounced name in the South, Jan Stenerud, the kicker for the team. Who are you talking about?
Just a note on Garo Yepremian, Brendan's mom was pregnant with him when Garo was kicking all those field goals. We lived in Miami. I lived in St. Pete.
Dang.
And she couldn't say Garo's first name. So every time Brendan would kick in their stomach, she would say, there goes Yargo again. Yargo kicking again. His first name was Yargo because he was kicking his mom.
I do look European,
Yes.
Yargo would fit you now.
Yeah.
Yargo.
That's my new name for the week.
Ellis, you heard what they just said. And John Hartwell, our friend on this show, big part of our team, was AD at Utah State for 7.5 years and remembered quite well about Merlin Olsen. One of the most eloquent, one of my favorite NFL players of all time, Ellis Johnson. All these guys are.
Well, I remember it well. Where I grew up in South Carolina, there were no teams in the South when I was a kid.
The Falcons?
Not yet. They came in when I was in high school or junior high.
I was at their first game.
Yeah, they played a game at South Carolina Stadium, an exhibition game, trying to get fans to. Everybody around where we were usually Washington Redskins. You say, well, why is that? That was, believe it or not, the closest NFL team to where we were, and we only got 2 channels, maybe 3 on the TV. 2 of them were in Columbia. One of them was out of Charlotte. And the Redskins would always be on the Charlotte TV station, and they couldn't have beaten our damn high school team.
On your station, we didn't have the NFL teams.
No,
because they didn't want black players on TV.
Yeah, it was a different world.
But I remember when all those teams started forming and everything. But when I was growing up, there weren't any. And so you'd watch the Redskins every Sunday. And
Don Bossler from Miami was one of the stars. Yeah, we knew the Redskins real well down in Florida.
Yep. Well, and that's what we did. In Memphis, we had the Cowboys, and when Archie signed with the Saints, guys, it was competition at that time. I mean, because Archie was and still is a really big deal. And I think it's cool to think about. But, Dave, you heard us talking. You look at the numbers, and you tell stories with numbers. I think the most important thing you can do is tell a story that people understand. Buddy's sat down and talked to any and everybody in his career, and he just keeps getting better, like that bottle of great French wine down in the cellar that is from, the Bordeaux region of France, whatever. But, Dave, when you look at what's happening in the NFL now and what's happening in college, the product that we're sending from college to the pros, good. Give it a grade. A, B, C, D, or F compared to, say, 10 years ago.
Well, I'm not an X's and O's guy, and I think it's difficult to objectively try to figure out the level of talent that's going from one to the other. Yeah. Athletically, nothing's really changed. Okay, it's still the biggest, fastest, strongest. Go to the NFL. Those that have the best combination. It's not about speed and it's not about size. It's about the best combination of those things. And it's been that way for the entire century. So subjectively, you got to determine, is the quality of player that is going to the NFL better today or worse than it was 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 15 years ago? And I would argue that it is a lower quality of player for 2 reasons. One, mental toughness. with NIL, there's a lot of guys that don't have to be mentally tough. They can leave, they can transfer, they can go different places if things get too hard. But I also feel those guys are exaggerated by fans and in the media over most of the guys that don't leave, that do develop, that do stay where they're at. So as a whole, I do believe the quality has probably dropped a little bit, but it's not to the point where the NFL is actively complaining about it or doing something. If at some point it starts hurting the NFL product, then the NFL is going to step up and demand changes in college football because their free developmental league isn't developing it enough. So, overall, I would say athletically, it's the same thing. Maybe there's a slight quality, especially in some of the more technical areas of football, quarterback, DBs, and so forth. Your offensive linemen, but by the time you get to the NFL, this is still only 225 guys drafted a year. They're still the best available, and I don't think objectively you can see that much of a fall off in overall talent.
Pete, I want to ask your thoughts on that and then back up to Buddy.
No, I totally agree with Dave. Bigger, stronger, faster. It's the combination. That's why we have the pajama Olympics coming up at the combine. Who can jump off the chart and who can run this and that, and yet it doesn't translate into being a contributing football player. But guys get blown away with these numbers. Yet, Dick Vermeil Coach Landry used to say this all the time when I was a scout in Dallas. Is he a football player? That was the question. Is he a football player? And in Dallas, we had the position specifics. Does he match our specifics? Because we'll teach him our scheme. I'm not worried about the scheme he's coming from. But does he have the position specifics? I hear this a lot from friends I have in the NFL. They say, Pete, we have to go reteach guys because their technique and fundamentals are horrible. It's like see ball, get ball, but what's the angle? What's the leverage? Where are your eye placement? Why are so many guys missing tackles in open space? That's one of the things that Indiana did so well. I mean, I would put Indiana's open field tackling against anybody in college football or the NFL. Seattle, with Mike McDonald, has emphasized no missed tackles. And being a defensive guy, Seattle's defense has gotten better. But the college coaches, and you're finding the college coaches are being asked, why aren't you developing guys? And it's like, well, we can't hit. We don't want to beat our team up. And now, with the schedules going longer, you don't want your team beat up in November in the most important month. Yeah. So there's a fine line between how you develop guys, but there's still a lot of question marks from NFL coaches as to when they get a rookie or a guy on his first year contract, those first 4 years, how can we develop him to be a better pro football player, not college?
Yeah.
The biggest thing is college coaches aren't developing their players to go to the NFL. They got to win at their team, at their school. And I'm like what Dave said earlier. ADs are doing that too. Hey, my coach has to win because now it's two guys are on the hot seat. So let's go get the best guys. Let's go let them play. But in the NFL, that's why you're seeing so many college coaches hired now on staffs in the NFL, is to try to communicate with these younger guys. Yeah. Hey, look, here's what he's talking about. And this time of year, we're seeing college staffs. Somebody from Georgia Tech just went to Miami. I mean, we're seeing college coaches go to NFL staffs, but it's for the communication process of what's required in the NFL versus what you've just come from in college. Yeah. So, but they got to get better. Somehow, some way, how you develop time, how you develop your ability to get guys tougher and more fundamentally sound. That's why I think you're going to see a number of Indiana players drafted because they are so good.
Yeah. All right. Let's go back, buddy. We got just a couple of minutes left on this thing, but great panel discussion. Dave Bartoo, College Football Matrix, Coach Ellis Johnson, Coach Pete Cordelli, EP Brendan Martin, and Buddy Martin up here right now. But heard what Pete just said. You wrote a column today. We got just about 3 minutes left. How would you title it out based about what's college doing to the NFL? And what does the NFL say about what's happening in college football?
Yeah, well, it's really not about that, but I won't take much time here to say this. It's more about the newspapers and how they are missing today and dying and quickly will be gone and be extinct. But I want to say real fast a couple of questions I have for Pete, and I'll go out of here. Number one, I think at the skill level, they are better. I think the quarterback play right now is at an all-time high. I've never seen better quarterback play in the NFL than I've seen in the last few weeks. Unbelievable. And I think that the skill positions, they're really getting it. Maybe not so much in the fundamentals. That's the fault of the coach. But these guys are trained early. They have NFL type people all around them, and certainly in Florida they're going to have them. And they train them to get to the next level. They come there knowing that's what they want to do. You better have a plan for them to get to the league if you want them to play college ball. But I know you have to win now to survive, and that's the big problem. So anyway, yeah, so interesting discussion, guys. I know you got a lot going on. I'll duck out of here and say goodbye. Good morning. Have a good one. Great talking with you.
Love it, man.
Thanks, buddy.
Thank you, buddy. And keep writing until you're 100. Don't even think about retiring.
Won't be long.
All right. Hey, guys, before we wrap it up, I think the cool thing that I learned from when you get three smart people, and I'm serious, the three of y'all together, and we're not in an echo chamber, Dave. I mean, if a coach calls you up, says, I've got to have you've got three or four people on speed dial. You don't have to just go grab it at straws, do you? You know where the coaches are. That's why you're so valuable. People hire Dave Bartoo, College Football Matrix. You had a database going back to 2010 of every college and pro coach, assistant, or head coach. You got all that?
Yep. Over 15,000 guys graded out in the system. So, whether Brett Bielema calls looking for a special teams coordinator or running back, or a Todd Monken at Cleveland Tech's looking for a certain guy, it's all right here in computer chips, man.
Well, and these wonderful
Mike Bajakian.
Yes. Yes. Do you want me to give my opinion on Mike Bajakian and how and the quality of that hire?
Yes.
His career as a play caller has been remarkably below average. Not impressed with his overall acumen as a play caller, offensive coordinator. Now he was hired as a quarterback coach, so that's going to be different. But his last year at UMass and his previous 3 years calling plays at Northwestern were beyond below average. So this one I would classify 100% as a buddy hire. This is somebody that knew somebody that made him feel good. It is not a plus in the staffing category for the Browns, in my opinion.
All right, we've run out of time. We're going to get this going again next week. Super Bowl. I'm taking the Seahawks to win, so it's going to be fun. But Dave Bartoo, Ellis Johnson, Pete Cordelli, awesome. Again, we'll do it again next Monday. Share, like, and subscribe this show. Guys, thanks more than you know for sharing your time with us. I'll go back and watch this and take a lot of notes today. This is one of the better ones. Hey, folks,
you're
out.
Hey, Brown, I'm going to give you the ticket. They're getting ready to write me here. I'm going to send you.
No, don't let them do it.
I got to go.
All right, be careful. I'll call him back in a minute. Look, hey, let me say this. LandersFordMemphis.com open every day of the week except Sunday. Poplar and Houston Levy and I-240 in Mount Moriah. Get out there. Brad Bellamy, the general manager, will take care of you. Right down the street from Hewlett and Dunn. And hempforpros.com. Hey, most often we see the face of Christ in the least among us. For executive producer Brendan Martin, it's Rob Browne. Share, like, and subscribe this show. See you tomorrow.